My name is Dr. Audrey Larkwell, and I want to ask you something that I think you already know the answer to. When did your body stop feeling like yours? Not in a dramatic moment, not after a specific event, but somewhere in your early to mid-40s, quietly, gradually, without anyone warning you, it was coming. The belly that appeared without invitation. The bloating that makes your clothes feel tight before lunch is even over. The sugar cravings that arrive at night like they have their own schedule. The afternoon energy that simply evaporates. The weight that will not move no matter what you try. The sleep that does not restore. The metabolism that seems to have decided on its own to operate at half speed. And the most disorienting part of all of it is this. You may be doing everything the same breakfast, the same exercise, the same effort, but the body is responding differently, and nobody prepared you for that. Nobody sat you down at 42 and said, everything you knew about your body is about to change. The rules are shifting. What worked before may not work anymore. And it is not because you are failing. It is because your hormones, your metabolism, your sleep, your stress response, every major system in your body is entering a new phase. And that new phase needs a new kind of understanding. Instead, most women are told one of two things: eat less and move more, or this is just menopause, it is normal. And both of those answers, while not entirely wrong, are so incomplete that they leave most women exactly where they started: frustrated, confused, blaming themselves for something that was never about discipline at all. Today, I want to change that conversation. I want to give you the answer that most women after 40 never receive. Not just about what is happening, but about why. And more importantly, about what you can actually do about it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, the pattern your body has been running for months, maybe years, may finally make sense. Let me describe something. You wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you notice it again. The belly. Not from what you ate last night, not from a bad weekend, just there. Soft in a way that feels new, positioned lower than it used to be. Persistent in a way that nothing seems to change. You button your jeans, or you reach for the ones with a little more room, because by mid-afternoon the bloating will have added another layer to everything. That heavy, swollen sensation in the abdomen that makes you feel like you gained weight between breakfast and lunch. That uncomfortable fullness that appears even when you did not overeat. That pressure that makes you want to unbutton everything and lie down. And throughout the day, the cravings, not at mealtimes, at the wrong times, mid-afternoon when energy drops, after dinner when the house gets quiet, late at night when the day finally stops demanding things from you and your body demands something back, something sweet, something quick, something that promises a moment of relief before the guilt arrives with it. And you have tried. You know you have tried. You cut carbs for 2 weeks and felt worse. You tried intermittent fasting and your mood became impossible. You counted calories and felt like you were punishing yourself for being alive. You exercised harder and the scale barely moved. You swapped dessert for fruit and the craving came back stronger the next night. And every time the effort does not produce the result, the same thought arrives. What is wrong with me? I need you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you, but something has changed. And that change has a name and an explanation and a path forward. Here is what I have spent my career studying. The female body in perimenopause and menopause does not simply age. It undergoes one of the most significant metabolic transitions of a lifetime, and it happens across multiple systems simultaneously, in a way that is completely normal and almost completely misunderstood. Let me walk you through what is actually happening. The first shift is estrogen. Estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. It plays an active role in how the female body manages weight, fat distribution, insulin sensitivity, inflammation, sleep quality, and mood. As estrogen levels fluctuate and decline during perimenopause, which can begin as early as the late 30s and typically intensifies through the 40s, the body's relationship with all of those systems changes. Fat that used to distribute evenly, hips, thighs, arms, begins to shift toward the abdomen. The belly that appears without explanation in so many women's 40s is not laziness. It is estrogen redistribution. The body, adapting to a new hormonal environment, changes where it stores energy. and no amount of sit-ups directly reverses a hormonal fat redistribution. The second shift is insulin sensitivity. Estrogen actually supports insulin sensitivity, the body's ability to respond efficiently to insulin and move glucose out of the bloodstream and into cells for energy. As estrogen declines, insulin sensitivity often decreases, which means the body's glucose management becomes less efficient, which means energy becomes less stable, which means blood sugar swings become more pronounced, which means cravings become stronger and harder to manage, which means the crash after meals becomes more severe, which means the belly, particularly visceral abdominal fat, which is metabolically active, may grow more easily than before. This is not a willpower issue, this is a hormonal cascade. The third shift is cortisol and sleep. As estrogen and progesterone fluctuate, sleep quality almost universally deteriorates in midlife women. Night sweats, waking up, difficulty falling back asleep, lighter sleep overall. And here is the metabolic consequence that most women are never told. Poor sleep directly increases cortisol. Elevated cortisol increases appetite, particularly for high-calorie, high-sugar foods. Elevated cortisol promotes abdominal fat storage. Elevated cortisol impairs insulin sensitivity, and impaired insulin sensitivity worsens blood sugar swings, which worsens cravings, which worsens sleep, which raises cortisol further. This is the cycle that so many women after 40 are living inside. Not because they lack discipline, because their hormones have created a biological environment where weight gain, cravings, bloating, and fatigue are the expected output of the system, and the solution cannot be the same as it was before the system changed. I want to be honest with you about why I do this work, because it is personal. I was 43 when the change began for me. I had dedicated my career to women's health. I knew the physiology. I had counseled hundreds of women through exactly what I am describing, and I still did not fully see it when it was happening to me. The belly first, not large, but present in a way it had never been before, resistant in a way it had never been before. I was eating well, or so I thought. I was exercising regularly. I was doing everything that had always worked. But the body was operating by a different set of rules now, rules I had not updated. Then, the cravings, specifically at night, specifically for something sweet, not because I was hungry, but because my body felt depleted and was asking for quick energy in the only language it knew. And I would lie awake some nights, not sleeping well, waking at irregular hours, wondering why I felt more anxious, more reactive, more physically uncomfortable in my own skin, and I would think, this is what my patients have been describing for years, and I have been telling them it is normal without telling them it is also addressable. That was the moment I went back to the research, not as a clinician looking for what to prescribe, as a woman looking for what could actually help. What I found changed the way I practice, and it is what I want to share with you today. Let me spend a moment on the belly specifically, because I know it is the thing many women feel most distressed about, and I want to make sure you understand what it is and is not. Visceral fat, the fat that accumulates deep in the abdomen around the organs, is different from subcutaneous fat, which sits just beneath the skin. Visceral fat is metabolically active. It produces inflammatory compounds. It is more strongly associated with insulin resistance than fat elsewhere in the body, and it is more responsive to hormonal changes. When estrogen declines and cortisol rises, which is exactly what happens in perimenopause, the conditions for visceral fat accumulation are almost textbook. The body is literally being directed by its own hormonal environment to store energy in the abdomen. This is not a failure of character. It is a physiological response to a hormonal transition. And understanding this matters, because women who believe their belly is a discipline problem spend their energy restricting. And restriction without hormonal and metabolic support rarely produces lasting results after 40. What the belly is actually asking for is different. It is asking for stable blood sugar, because glucose instability promotes fat storage. It is asking for better sleep, because poor sleep drives cortisol, which drives abdominal fat. It is asking for stress support, because chronic cortisol directly promotes visceral accumulation. It is asking for consistent movement, because muscle tissue uses glucose and reduces the hormonal drivers of fat storage. It is asking for natural metabolic support, because the body's own systems for managing glucose and energy are working less efficiently now. That is a very different conversation than eat less. And it is the conversation that most women after 40 deserve to be having. I also want to spend time on cravings, because they are one of the most misunderstood experiences of midlife. Women are told the cravings are emotional, stress eating, comfort food, emotional eating, and sometimes that is a partial truth. But after 40, cravings are very often biological. Here's the mechanism. When blood sugar drops, which happens more quickly and more frequently as insulin sensitivity decreases, the brain sends an urgent signal. More fuel, fast. And the body's preferred fast fuel is glucose, which means sugar, which means carbohydrates, which means the specific foods that will spike blood sugar quickly and bring temporary relief. This is not weakness. This is the body doing exactly what it is designed to do when it detects a drop in available fuel. The problem is that after 40, those drops are happening more often, more deeply, and more intensely than they used to, particularly in the afternoon, when cortisol has been running all day and insulin sensitivity is at its lowest point, and particularly at night, when the day's blood sugar swings have accumulated and the body wants something to close the loop before sleep. The woman who eats well all day and then stands in front of the pantry at 9 p.m. reaching for something sweet is not failing. She is experiencing the predictable endpoint of a blood sugar pattern that started at breakfast. And the solution is not to shame herself at 9 p.m. The solution is to address the blood sugar stability pattern across the entire day. And that requires a different kind of support. If what I am describing sounds like your daily experience, if the belly, the bloating, the cravings, the energy crashes, the frustrating metabolism, if this is the pattern you have been living inside for months or years, then I want you to take one simple step right now. The link in the first line of the description below will take you to a guide that explains exactly what I'm about to share. The natural daily support routine designed for women after 40 who are ready to stop fighting their bodies and start supporting them. Click the first link in the description, and then come back, because what I am about to share next may be the piece you have been missing. Here is what I kept returning to. The female body, after 40, does not need more punishment, more restriction, more shame, more impossible standards. It needs support, targeted, consistent, natural. Support for the glucose management system that is working less efficiently, support for the metabolic systems that are adapting to a new hormonal environment, support for the energy, the cravings, the bloating, the inflammation, and the antioxidant protection that midlife metabolism demands. And what caught my attention in the research was the growing body of evidence around specific natural plant-based compounds that have been studied in the context of metabolic health, blood sugar support, glucose management, and the specific challenges that women face in the decades of hormonal transition. Not miracle plants, not magic solutions, but natural compounds with real research behind them, used responsibly as part of a consistent daily routine that may support the metabolic picture in a way that diet and exercise alone often cannot achieve after 40. That is when I began recommending a specific kind of natural daily support to the women I work with. And the consistency of what I heard back changed the way I approach this conversation entirely. Less intense afternoon fatigue, fewer uncontrollable nighttime cravings, bloating that was less severe and less frequent, mornings that felt less heavy, a body that felt more responsive to the healthy habits they were already building. Not perfection, support. And support, consistently applied, changes the pattern. Let me tell you about the natural daily formula that I believe represents the kind of support I have been describing. I want to be clear about what it is and what it is not. It is not a medication. It is not a cure for any condition. It is not a weight loss drug. And it is not a replacement for medical care, for lifestyle change, or for the guidance of your own healthcare provider. But it is something I find genuinely meaningful. It is a plant-based daily formula, simple to integrate into a morning routine, that was designed specifically to support metabolic wellness, blood sugar balance, energy and appetite management for women navigating the body changes that come with midlife. And it does this through a thoughtfully selected blend of natural botanical and nutritional compounds that each address a different piece of the metabolic picture. Let me walk you through them. The first is green tea extract, specifically the compound EGCG, a catechin found in green tea that has been among the most researched natural compounds in the metabolic wellness space. Green tea catechins have been studied for antioxidant activity, thermogenic support, and their possible role in supporting healthy metabolism and weight management. For women after 40, the antioxidant dimension is particularly relevant because midlife brings an increase in oxidative stress, a state where the body's own defense against cellular damage needs more consistent support. Important note: concentrated green tea extracts should always be used as directed. High intakes beyond recommended amounts have been associated with rare liver safety concerns in some reports. This is not a reason to avoid green tea extract. It is a reason to use a well-formulated product responsibly, as directed, and to speak with your healthcare provider if you have any liver concerns. The second is apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has been studied for its effects on glycemic response, specifically how the body responds to carbohydrates at meals. The acetic acid in apple cider vinegar may slow the absorption of carbohydrates, which can reduce the sharpness of the blood sugar spike that follows eating. For women dealing with post-meal energy crashes and the cravings that follow, this mechanism fits the metabolic picture naturally. Some clinical reviews have suggested that apple cider vinegar may support glycemic and lipid markers in certain contexts. But it is not a blood sugar medication, and it works best as part of a consistent daily routine rather than as a standalone intervention. The third is berberine HCl. Berberine is one of the most studied plant-derived compounds in the area of metabolic health. It is derived from several plants used in traditional medicine and has been extensively researched in relation to glucose metabolism and blood sugar support. Meta-analyses have explored its effects on blood sugar markers, particularly in people managing metabolic challenges. The findings are meaningful enough that berberine has become one of the most discussed botanical compounds in the conversation about natural metabolic support. However, and this is important, berberine can interact with medications, including diabetes medications, blood thinners, and others. If you take any prescription medication or have a diagnosed metabolic condition, please speak with your healthcare provider before adding berberine to your routine. Natural does not mean without effect, and meaningful effect requires meaningful responsibility. The fourth is banaba leaf. Banaba leaf contains naturally occurring compounds, including corosolic acid, which has been studied in relation to glucose metabolism and antioxidant activity. In traditional wellness practices, banaba has long been used in approaches aimed at metabolic balance. Modern research has begun to explore the mechanisms behind this traditional use, and while the evidence is not definitive, banaba fits naturally in a formula designed to support the body's glucose management from multiple botanical angles. The fifth is cinnamon bark. Cinnamon is one of the most widely recognized culinary spices in the world, and it is also one of the most studied spices in the metabolic wellness conversation. Research has explored cinnamon's possible effects on fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity, with some studies showing meaningful associations. However, results across studies have been mixed. The Mayo Clinic notes that it is still not fully established whether cinnamon reliably lowers blood sugar in people with diabetes. That is why cinnamon belongs in this formula as supportive, traditional metabolic wellness, not as a guaranteed blood sugar treatment. But as one natural piece of a multi-ingredient approach, it adds a layer of traditional and increasingly researched botanical support that fits the female metabolic picture naturally. The sixth is ginger root. Ginger is a plant with one of the longest histories in traditional wellness, valued across cultures for digestive comfort, warmth, and general metabolic support. In the midlife metabolic conversation, ginger's connection to digestive wellness is particularly relevant. Bloating, one of the most commonly reported and most distressing physical experiences of perimenopause, is often connected to digestive changes that accompany the hormonal shifts of midlife. Ginger's traditional role in supporting digestive comfort makes it a natural fit in a formula designed for women navigating exactly this pattern. Research on ginger and blood sugar markers has shown variable results, with some studies suggesting modest benefits and others finding limited effects on fasting glucose. That is why ginger belongs in this formula as digestive comfort and metabolic wellness support, contributing to the broader picture without carrying exaggerated claims. The seventh is Korean ginseng. Korean ginseng, Panax ginseng, has one of the longest research records of any botanical in the world. It is traditionally associated with energy, vitality, stress resilience, and immune support. In the metabolic research space, studies have explored its possible effects on fasting glucose and energy regulation, with some reviews showing modest associations. For women after 40 who are dealing with the energy depletion that comes from metabolic instability, hormonal change, and poor sleep, Korean ginseng fits the formula naturally as an energy and vitality support botanical within a broader metabolic wellness approach. Not a stimulant, not a pharmaceutical, a traditional botanical with a meaningful research record and a natural role in daily energy support. And the eighth is resveratrol. Resveratrol is a polyphenol found naturally in grapes, berries, and other plant foods. It has been studied extensively in the context of antioxidant activity, inflammation, insulin sensitivity, and metabolic health. For midlife women, the inflammation dimension is particularly important. The hormonal changes of perimenopause are associated with increased inflammatory activity in the body, a state that can contribute to weight gain, fatigue, joint discomfort, and the general sense of physical unease that many women describe in their 40s. Resveratrol's antioxidant and anti-inflammatory research profile makes it one of the most interesting natural compounds in the midlife women's wellness conversation. Research findings have not been fully consistent across all populations, and resveratrol should not be presented as a guaranteed metabolic cure, but as an antioxidant and metabolic support compound within a comprehensive natural formula. It represents a meaningful and evidence-informed addition. Now let me step back and show you the complete picture. Because what makes this formula powerful is not any single ingredient. It is the way the ingredients work together to address the multiple layers of the metabolic pattern I have been describing. Green tea extract for antioxidant protection and metabolic support. Apple cider vinegar for glycemic response support after meals. Berberine HCl for glucose metabolism support. Banaba leaf for botanical blood sugar balance support. Cinnamon bark for traditional metabolic wellness support. Ginger root for digestive comfort and metabolic support. Korean ginseng for energy, vitality, and stress resilience. Resveratrol for antioxidant protection and metabolic health. 8 natural compounds, 8 different angles of support, all converging on the same central challenge that women after 40 face. A metabolic system that has changed, a hormonal environment that has shifted, a body that needs more targeted, consistent, natural support than diet and willpower alone can provide. And all of it designed to be simple, one daily step, one consistent habit, something you can actually maintain. Because the most powerful routine is not the most impressive one. It is the one that fits into your real life and stays there. I want to tell you about someone. A woman I worked with in her early 50s. She came to me exhausted, not just physically, emotionally exhausted by years of trying and not seeing results. She had tried every diet. She had counted calories until she felt like she was losing her mind. She had cut carbs and felt better for 2 weeks and then crashed. She had exercised hard and hurt her knees and gained back everything she lost. She had taken supplements that promised everything and delivered nothing. And she had blamed herself for every single one of those outcomes. By the time she came to see me, she had stopped trying. Not because she did not care. Because she was tired of failing at something she did not fully understand. When I explained to her what was actually happening in her body, the estrogen shift, the insulin sensitivity change, the cortisol and sleep connection, the visceral fat pattern, the blood sugar craving cycle, something shifted in her face. She said, so this was never just about eating less? No, it was never just about eating less. It was about a metabolic system that had changed and was receiving no targeted support. We restructured her approach entirely. Not restriction, support. Better sleep as a metabolic priority. Movement, designed for her body's changed capacity, not punishment. Evening meals built for blood sugar stability, not just calorie counts. Hydration patterns that supported energy without disrupting sleep. Stress awareness as a metabolic tool, not an afterthought. And a consistent daily natural formula designed specifically for the metabolic challenges of women in midlife. Within the first month, she reported that the afternoon energy crashes were less severe. The nighttime cravings, which had been her most frustrating experience for years, were less urgent. The bloating was still present, but less constant and less severe. The mornings felt fractionally lighter. The scale had not dramatically moved, but her relationship with her body had. And 2 months in, when she came back for a follow-up, she said something I will not forget. I stopped being angry at myself. I started being curious about my body instead, and everything felt more possible after that. That is the transformation I want for you. Not just a number on a scale, a different relationship with your body, one built on understanding instead of shame, on support instead of punishment, on consistency instead of desperation. Before I tell you how to access this formula, I want to be direct about something. This formula is designed for generally healthy adults after 40 who are dealing with the common metabolic challenges of midlife. It is not appropriate for everyone without consideration. If you have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, please speak with your healthcare provider before adding any of these compounds, particularly berberine, to your routine, as some ingredients can interact with blood sugar medications. If you take blood thinners, heart medications, hormonal medications, or any other prescription, speak with your doctor before starting. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding, this formula is not appropriate. If you have liver disease, kidney disease, or digestive conditions, please discuss supplementation with your provider before starting. Natural support is not careless support. The ingredients in this formula have meaningful physiological activity. That is what makes them valuable. And that same activity means they should be respected. Used as directed, as part of a broader wellness plan, with professional guidance when your health situation requires it. And I want to say clearly, if you have symptoms of unmanaged blood sugar, extreme thirst, frequent urination, unexplained weight loss, blurred vision, numbness, or fatigue that does not respond to sleep, please seek medical evaluation. Those symptoms deserve a doctor, not a supplement. Natural support is for the woman who is building a better daily rhythm, not for the woman whose body is in medical crisis. The difference matters, and you deserve to know it. Now, I want to give you the complete picture, because this formula works best as part of a larger approach, not instead of lifestyle. Alongside it, here is what that looks like for women navigating midlife metabolic change. Protein at every meal. After 40, protein becomes more important than most women realize. Not just for muscle preservation, though that matters enormously for metabolism, but for blood sugar stability. Protein slows glucose absorption, reduces the sharpness of the post-meal blood sugar spike, and supports satiety in a way that carbohydrates alone cannot. If you are eating meals that are primarily carbohydrates, particularly refined ones, without adequate protein, you are setting up the afternoon energy crash and the nighttime craving before the day has even begun. Movement after meals, even a 10-minute walk after eating, has a meaningful effect on how the body handles the glucose from that meal. Not a workout, not an intense session, just movement. This is one of the most underused tools in metabolic wellness after 40, and it requires no gym, no equipment, and no schedule change. Just willingness to move for 10 minutes after you eat. Front-loaded hydration. Drink most of your water before 5 p.m. Dehydration contributes to fatigue, cravings, and the foggy feeling many women describe in the afternoon. But drinking large amounts of fluid late in the evening disrupts sleep, which worsens cortisol, which worsens the metabolic pattern. Front-load hydration. Let your body be well supported before the evening begins. Evening meal timing. The later you eat, the more you ask the body to manage digestion, blood sugar, and metabolic activity during the hours when it is supposed to be in recovery mode. Earlier, lighter dinners, even shifting the meal just 30 minutes earlier, can have a meaningful impact on sleep quality, morning energy, and the cravings pattern. Sleep as a metabolic tool. This is the piece most women overlook. Sleep is not separate from metabolism. It is central to it. Poor sleep raises cortisol. High cortisol drives appetite and abdominal fat storage. Fragmented sleep reduces insulin sensitivity. Reduced insulin sensitivity worsens blood sugar swings. Worsened blood sugar swings intensify cravings. Every hour of better sleep is a metabolic investment. Protecting sleep quality is not indulgent. It is essential. Stress awareness. Cortisol is the hormone behind so much of the midlife metabolic picture. Belly fat storage, craving intensity, sleep disruption, blood sugar swings. And cortisol is driven by unmanaged stress, not just dramatic stress, chronic low-level stress, the kind that accumulates across a full week of demands, responsibilities, and not quite enough recovery. Even brief moments of intentional calm, 5 minutes of slow breathing, a short walk in natural light, a genuine conversation with someone you care about, can meaningfully reduce cortisol over time when practiced consistently. And the daily natural formula. Consistent, plant-based, designed for the metabolic and hormonal environment of the female body after 40. These habits together create something that no single change in isolation can. A body that is finally receiving the support it has been asking for. A metabolism that is operating in a supportive environment instead of a resistant one. A daily rhythm that works with the body's changed biology instead of fighting it. If you have been watching this video and recognizing your own body in every word, if the belly that will not shift, the bloating, the cravings, the crashes, the metabolism that no longer responds, if these are your daily reality, then do not leave this video without taking one simple step. The link is in the first line of the description below. It will take you directly to the guide that explains this complete daily support routine for women navigating midlife metabolic change. Inside, you will find the full formula, each of the 8 plant-based compounds I described, the simple daily routine, and the approach that brings it all together. And if you are watching this later and the description is hard to find, the same link is in the pinned comment below. Because this information deserves to reach every woman who has been blaming herself for something that was never about discipline. Every woman who has tried every diet and wondered what she was missing, every woman who has looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger in her own body. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are a woman in a body that has changed, and a body that has changed deserves support that has changed with it. Not the same advice from 20 years ago. Not another restriction plan designed for a metabolism that no longer exists. A real, natural, daily approach to supporting the body you are actually living inside. One that understands what estrogen loss does, what cortisol does, what sleep disruption does, what insulin sensitivity shifts do, and what targeted, consistent, plant-based daily support can do in response. That is what this formula offers, and that is what you deserve. Click the first link in the description. This is Dr. Audrey Larkwell. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If this video helped you understand something about your body that you had been calling your fault, please subscribe to this channel. Every week, we explore the hormonal shifts, the metabolic changes, the natural compounds, and the daily habits that allow women after 40 to live with more energy, more balance, and more peace in their own bodies. Because menopause is not the end of vitality. It is a transition. And transitions, when properly understood and properly supported, do not have to mean decline. They can mean discovery. Discovery of a new kind of care, a new kind of rhythm, a new relationship with a body that has been carrying you, changing with you, and asking for your attention for a very long time. It is time to listen.